Hey Refuel, Wesley here. I have a short thought for you today. When I was 17 years old, I decided I wanted to give away what God was doing in my life. He had been radically changing me. My entire life was being transformed. I was thinking new, living new, seeing the world in a different way. And that's because I was going to church, learning the Bible, and I was following Jesus. So I decided to start a Bible study at my high school at 17 years old as a senior. I started this Bible study and I thought this will be a great thing for the year. 3 weeks into it, I walk out of the classroom that we were using to teach the Bible study, and I felt like God said, Wesley, I am calling you to do this the rest of your life. What was interesting about that moment is I had no idea what was ahead. I didn't know the challenges, the joys, all the things that would take place in that calling. But one thing I've learned, whenever God has called you to something, it will not always be easy. If you've been called to be a parent, a grandparent, a lawyer, a doctor, a scientist, a pastor, a youth pastor, whatever God has called you to, there's going to be seasons of ease and joy, but there's also going to be challenges along the way. And when I think about the life of the Apostle Paul, who wrote nearly half the New Testament, was the pioneering of church planting in Christianity, led the Roman world into a revival, turning hundreds of thousands of hearts to Jesus, I think Paul's calling was not easy. In fact, listen to these words in 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8. We do not want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. Indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death, but this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God, who raises the dead. He has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us again. Paul's writing about a moment when he went into this region called Asia, or Asia Minor, modern day portion of Turkey, to begin to plant churches. And he started in the hub, the leading city, Ephesus. And he faced so much opposition, so much adversity, so many afflictions, that he talks about a moment that was pinnacle, where Paul describes in vivid terminology what he was facing. First, he faced many troubles. The term troubles there is the same term that's used of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. It's thalipsis, it means afflictions. Paul was facing internal and external suffering in Asia Minor as he did the work of Jesus. Second, he faced great pressure. Now you might read that and you're like, what does that mean? Pressure there refers to a psychological condition. It can be translated to be burdened beyond your strength to keep going. He felt emotionally oppressed. Sometimes in life, the challenges that we face, the moments in life, we can feel weighted down emotionally. Our soul can feel like it has 100-pound weight on it. And this was Paul as he was facing the troubles of ministry in this region. And then finally, notice what he says. He said, he faced despair of life itself. Your calling's not going to always be easy. Sometimes the challenges lead you to a point where you're in extreme despair. You have anxiety and fear. You feel immobilized by the pressures of your calling. But I want you to notice the hope. Even though our calling is not easy, notice what he says, and this is what I want to end on. But this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God. And then he says in verse 10, God has delivered us, and he will deliver us again. I want to just encourage you with this. Your calling will not always be easy. However, God will deliver you, and God is delivering you. He is always with you. He's the anchor of your calling, and he's the anchor of your hope in the midst of the challenges that coincide with your calling. Much love. Have a great day.